Good day, hope you're well. Welcome back and welcome to a different type of video. Today we're going to break down Radiance. We're going to bring some clarification. You know, we've heard about it. It started with Battlegrounds. Here's what's coming out. Now there's live streams and all these words going on, all these maths, all these spreadsheets, all these numbers. What can we do? Truth, tell me. That's why we're here. Let's get into it. Now, before we get started, I do want to note that I saw the video that KT made, which I'll also link in the description, which was a great breakdown of how exactly Radiance compares to Battlegrounds tokens. And I highly recommend that when you're working through the big picture plan of how you want to approach Radiance, that you review that as well, because it's going to help you understand where you should spend all of these various currencies we have in this game. Hopefully, Radiance will narrow these things down eventually, but for right now, we're still going to be managing the 55 currencies we're currently dealing with. First things first, the qualifier. I am not here to tell you how and where to spend your Radiance. That's a decision you have to make for yourself. You know, you could catch a fish, or I could teach someone to fish. And that's what we're here to try to do today. That said, I do want to help you understand where you can acquire it, what the breakdown in the store is from a scaling cost perspective, and ultimately, thanks to the help of Laser, big shout out to him, whose video I'll link in the description, give you a planner that you can use to work through all of your acquisition points and how exactly you want to spend it. Let's go. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into the spreadsheet that I started by making, which I will link in the description, of course, as well, which is Radiance contextualized. Maybe it says Radiance Context, I'm not sure. But the point is, when I saw all these charts and spreadsheets and things going on, my brain started tingling, right? Started going, how can I better understand all of this stacking information? And so I went and pulled it into this spreadsheet here, these different tabs that you'll see. There's one for Battlegrounds, one for Alliance War, one for Raids, one for Quest. And they just give you some little pieces of information that can help you decide how you want to play this game. So first things first, let's look at Battlegrounds. As you can see, we've got our ranks over here, you know, what your placement is, what that means in terms of people, what that means in terms of people, where that puts you in the number of total players, and then how you get your Radiance. This was all that's in the chart, but here's what I added. So there's a few different pieces. First, I wanted to see what the percentage drop was from one class to another. Now, we don't really care that much about C1 through 3. That's C1 through 3. But what we do care about is when we get here into the C4, C5, and even further down, how much am I losing by not hitting the next rank? Okay. And then for simple color coding, I decided to go ahead and anything between 10 and 20 that wasn't, again, C4 and earlier, because few of us are competing there, and if you do, you know what you're doing for math. I put the percentage drop. So as you can see right here in this first one, from C6 to C5, I am losing out on 18.2% by not obtaining C5. I get that drop. We see another big drop. It was kind of the first one noted when people were looking at it before. You drop 50,000 Radiance from C6 to M1, a 22% drop. But this is a very small group of players we're talking about here, right? We're talking about M1, C6, who's fighting for that line. So we expanded it, right? I wanted you to be able to see as you go down, one of the biggest drops, in fact, the biggest drop, is between Quantum and Mysterium. Here you lose out on over 50,000 Radiance, equating to almost a third of your overall total that you're going to pull in for the season. A big difference, very dramatic shift. For someone who just falls into Quantum, that's a big shift in losing that over 50K. And as we look down, it's pretty innocuous, you know, a few percentage points, less than 10%, until you get here into the gold and the Uru. And that makes sense just because the number gets so small that shifts in it become a larger percentage, right? It looks worse than it is. But it's still noticeable, right? The drop between Gamma and Uru is almost a third of your overall for the season, right? You're losing about 12K. Here you're at 31. It's a big drop. And you get another big drop here to Uru 6. Right now it's only 6,000 Radiance in the end run. But at the same time, we're looking at it as a percentage of what I could get by just putting out that next bit of effort or hitting that next goal. Now, one other piece of data you should know in this, and that is there's 30,000 Radiance available to us all, over the first 3 weeks of the season. Now we're a little bit tight on that first one, which is get to the GC within the first week. We got about a day and a half from when this releases. Might be a challenge, but given that they started most of us in Vibranium 2, it's fairly obtainable. Beyond that, there's an objective for getting to 100 points in the first 2 weeks and getting to 200 points in the first 3 weeks. Now, most of us are gonna get up to that 100, 200 range. And we're talking about 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 people that can get into this range of a couple hundred points. The question is there value to you in doing it early? And in my recent stream, I think about 2/3 of people said that Radiance had got them into Battlegrounds early. Well, here's what we can do. We come in here, you can fill this in. Let's just assume that I'm gonna get all 3 of them, right? Let's assume I'm gonna get my 30,000 points of Radiance. Well, this column here is gonna show you what that means to you in terms of the extra percentage you're getting for the season because you've put that early time in to get that Radiance. So as you can see in the Celestials, it's not super noticeable, right? The first C5, because they're getting so many tokens. An extra 30,000 to them doesn't mean that much. But that said, as you drop down, let's just call it Mysterium. Let's get out of Celestial. You get 175,000 Radiance for getting Mysterium 1, being a top 450 player. Well, you can add an extra 30,000 Radiance along the way. That's an extra 17% on top of this 175,000 you're getting. That's a pretty big chunk. It means a lot. If I came to you and said, hey, I'm gonna give you an extra 17% bonus on top of this thing that you're doing, you go, that's not too bad. I'll take that. And as you can imagine, the less that you're gonna get over the season, the greater this number becomes, right? For a quantum player, if you can get to your 200 points early, you're getting yourself an extra 1/3 of Radiance for the season. That's big. That's a big chunk for you. Come down here. I mean, if you managed to just be an Uru 6 player and decided you wanted to get 30,000 points, or you get your 30,000 Radiance, that's 240% increase. It's pretty massive. And the nice thing here is in this column, you can just figure out which ones you want to go for. Let's say you missed the 200 points, but you're gonna get 20,000 from getting to the GC and getting to 100 points in 2 weeks. Well, you see what the math is. Again, it's a nice little bonus, gives you just a little percentage increase of how much effort should I put in to obtain that thing. Initially, that's where this video was going to take a turn for the planner. But with the live stream on Friday, we got a little additional information. And so I decided to go ahead and expand this context, and we're going to blitz pretty quick through the next few. First things first, we're going to take a look at Alliance War. Most of us are engaging in Alliance War, and as you can see, that means varying degrees of Radiance for us over approximately a 6-week cycle. Now reminder, the store resets every 35 days. So basically your BG season, your Alliance War season, those are going to be things that you spend on that first 35 days, and then it's going to refresh again, refresh again, refresh again. So these are the rough big chunks that you're going to get in that you're going to want to account for. Now you see again, same type of math. We have the overall Radiance listed out, what your total players are, how many alliances, and what your percentage drops are. And because these are alliance based and there are bigger chunks through the tiers, there's a lot more yellow, orange, and red than there was in like the BG's tiers, you know what I'm saying? So guide accordingly. You know, me and my alliance, we tend to be here in the Masters Platinum 1 area. And so, you know, we can see it's just one more reason for us to want to obtain Masters, but that's what we're trying to do anyway. But this is less about an alliance pushing and more about you as a player. And what kind of alliance do you want to play in? I also have an account that sits here in a Gold 1, Platinum 6 alliance, and I've played with people who wanted to go up and push. And now you have a little more context, right? You have a little more look at, well, maybe I do want to get into Platinum 2 instead of Platinum 4 or Platinum 3, right? That extra 25,000 Radiance adds up. And it continues on because we're also going to have these same type of players who approach raids, right? Raids is going to give us a breakdown. You can see here, overall rank, the alliances, what that means in terms of players, and what that means in terms of Radiance. Now, raids is once a month, so you want to account for that. Note that that's coming in. You see your percentage drop. You know, this is an interesting one that stuck out to me because what this really says to me is this is the group that Kabam is incentivizing to spend money on prestige, right? They are punishing you by a larger margin in these two groups for not having a prestige as high as this group up here. And there are other similar drops. This is a pretty big drop down here that I didn't think we would see, like post 500. But all in all, right, you see where the drops are and you can figure out how you want to approach accordingly. Of course, this math goes straight into AQ, where we have effectively the same drops because it's just doubled for raids. So this is halved from what you saw on the raids number. And so the drop maintains the same, right? And again, this being prestige based, this group of players is really being incentivized to make sure they get that prestige up, which a lot of us are being focused on right now with the release of Yelena and Dark Phoenix, top 2 and 3 in the current prestige game. Accident? I think not. All right, so we made it through acquisition. Here's where I'm getting it. Here's how it's coming in. Here's where my alliance does or doesn't place. Here's how I want to approach battlegrounds. How do I want to spend it? Well, they gave us a breakdown of that. And first things first, let's look at the costs. And I don't want to look at costs in a hyper-specific way. I'm not trying to look at costs and like, oh, what's the cost of this versus that or that versus this? The first way I wanted to look at cost was the increasing store scale. And what I found, as we'll note here real quick, let me pop these open, is that the rate of increase is effectively the same on everything. So it's not like, oh, I can buy 9 chunks of units and still get better value than buying 3 chunks of this thing. No, the entire store scales relatively equally, right? You'll see the same rough numbers here, roughly 11%, 40%, 145%. So that means we can minimize all this, because if it's all effectively equal, then I really only care about where I'm getting my ultimate value in the big picture, and then I can just apply that to everything. And that's what we've done. Continue to stick with the same type of scale where between 10 and 20% more, it's going to be yellow, between 20 and 30% orange, and over 30% it's red. Okay? And we'll just use units here because we went straight down the store and just worked out some basic math. Here's how many units I'm getting, right, through my little thing. Here's how much radiance I'm spending to do that. Here's my percentage increase versus the previous milestone. So from 5 to 6, I'm going from 1360 to 1510, and that's a 10% increase from 5 to 6. From here, I'm going from 15 to 17, and that's almost 15% increase. It's less noticeable till you get more to here, right between 9 and 10, and you're going from 2,000 to 2,400. That's a 20% increase from 8 to 9. Right? That's one piece of how we look at it. But more importantly, how much am I going up versus the original amount of radiance I spent? All right, and that's the last column here, the increase versus original. So you can see it scales pretty low through the first 4 tiers. And then we start seeing some sizable chunks, right? As this increase versus previous goes up, the increase versus original is going to go up quite substantially. And so ultimately what I did, 4, 5, 6, we're here in the 25%. Now we're at 40% more, right? My first one was 1,200 units. Now I'm almost 500 plus units more to get my 7th batch of 75 units than I was on that first one. That hurts. And it goes up quite significantly, right? When this last one is almost 2.5 times as much as the original value, well, it may be worth it to you if you have an abundance of radiance. But to most people, we're going to strive to strike a better value bargain. And that's how I'm going to approach the store. So you can minimize that. And here are basically just my lines of demarcation. For the 5th one, you can know you're spending between 10 and 20% more than your original purchase. For your 6th one, you can know you're spending about 20 to 30% more than your original purchase. And anytime you go past 7, you can know you're spending more than 30% more than the original purchase, and it just gets worse and worse. If you're here in this red zone, you can feel free to break this sheet open and go, okay, is it really worth this much more radiance for me to get this extra item? If not, wait the 35 days. There's probably a better place to add that value or even just sit on it. Your future radiance will hold same value without you wasting it. But of course, if you're just one small step from that rank up, one small step from that crystal, one small step from that thing, well, then you probably want to take a look at getting that. Now that we've got acquisition and cost scaling out of the way, now we get to the meat of what I really wanted to build for you guys, but it turns out Laser, aka Jerry, was just ahead of me. He put this video out shortly after I shut my Google Sheets down. I was annoyed, I was frustrated. I was like, you know what? Oh, this is gonna take me forever. And lo and behold, this man comes to my my rescue. And so big shout out to him. I'll link his video in here. He's going to put out an update because we're tweaking this and we would love feedback from you. So comment here, comment there, let us know what you want to see. I know it's not very beautiful from a spreadsheet standpoint, but I'm a data person. I'm not a beautification person. For me, it's once I know the information, it's good, I can move it to the side. If you guys want to take the ball and beautify things, just let me know, send it back my way. We want to make this tool for you. We want you to have these tools so you can make the best decisions for you in this game that we spend so much time and effort, energy, money, resources on. So shout out to Jerry. Let's take a look at this bad boy. I basically set this thing up for myself so we could use it as an example and go through. But you just make a private copy, right? He's got some notes and stuff in here that you can work through. And then you go and start working through your acquisition, just like we did, right? We have our Radiance income. You can see C6. That's where I'm planning on finishing. It's a Celestial Abrupt season. Hope to see you in a stream. I'm going to make GC first week. I did. I made my 100. I made my 200. I got all those. I'm getting my max Radiance. Cool little tool here. If I didn't get those, you can see Jerry added these in here. Hey, you could get these, you know, X number of weekly Radiance. I think we're going to tweak it to where it's just the overall number. But the point being, it will tie you back to, hey, you're leaving this on the table. You want to go get it? It's up to you. Our anticipated AQ rank, you know, hopefully we can get that top 45, but for right now, we'll just keep it to 90 for, you know, setting expectations. If I have more Radiance end of the season, great. If not, well, we're fine. And of course, we're pushing for a Masters season, so that breaks down to this rough number of 105,000 weekly, which is cool. And that gives me my 5-week reset. My full acquisition number is going to be about 524K. And then I can go on down and take a look at where I want to spend it. He's got the scaling built in. So I come in here and let's say I want my, you know, naturally I'm going to want my tier 7 basic, unquestionably. So there's 125K. I'm probably going to get this mastery point. All right, you can see I'm totaling near the bottom. I want these tier 4, definitely want a few of those in that KT video. One of the things that was noted was that tier 4 alpha is like one of the best value for Radiance you can get, so highly recommend that. So I'm going to spend some things, you know, maybe I want 2 of these instead, and maybe I want to get some of these generic SIG stones, so let's call it 5, right? That's my line of demarcation. We're not doing any more of that. I need a couple of these to get a awakening gem, and you know, let's grab a few of these tier 4A. Okay, so now we go down. I'm at 397 of my 524. At some point in time, let's just say I went harder. 797. I'm highlighted in red now. Oh, let me scroll down. I'm highlighted in red, letting me know I've crossed the number here. I think we got some tweaking we can do with that, but still, this for right now is a good tool to help you plan out what you want to do. How you going to acquire Radiance? How do you want to spend it? Keep some semi-organized method for approaching it, and it's going to be here to stay. So again, leave us some comments. Let us know how we can make this thing better. Check Jerry's video out. Appreciate all of you being here. Let me know how else I can help. I wish you the best, and until next time,